Hi everyone and welcome, it's Melissa from Endometriosis.com, and today we are at my dentist out here in Caddy Kitty on a slightly chilly winter morning. But I'm here to do an interview with the dentist to find out all about our teeth, our gums, and how these things can actually affect our health and potentially healing the body. So we're going to go inside now and have a chat to our dentist and find out all about it. Hi, so this is my dentist Adam, and he's going to explain a little bit about our teeth and how they might potentially affect our health. So welcome Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I guess the first question I had was really something you read a lot about on the internet, which is to do with root canals and how they can almost cause permanent infection in the body. So just wanted to find out if there's any truth to that, what your thoughts are on that. Yeah, if you could explain that to us.
Right. So with root canals, there is an argument that having a root canal can still leave infection at the end of the roots. So what a root canal is when a tooth is dying or has an abscess, we clean out the root system of the tooth because that's where infection can sit, and then we fill those roots up with a filling material so that the bacteria can't reinfect the tooth. And the thought is that it may be that some infections still lift at the end of the roots and causing a problem. Generally speaking, root canals do have a success rate like any other treatment. The success rate ranges from 60 to 90% depending on the hands that have done it, and it can be found when they have a failure by either the symptoms, which means it's tender to chew on, or some sort of sensitivity. Sometimes we can tell by seeing maybe a little boil up above the gum, like a little white-headed pimple or swelling. And if not, we can tell by taking an X-ray, and on the X-ray we can see a little area at the end of the roots. Now it is possible that we can't see it on the X-ray and it doesn't have symptoms but still has some infection there which we can't tell. So that is a little bit of a grey area. What if...
And the body is not able to heal that on its own? Like it's not able to flush out that infection on its own?
The body can do a lot of healing on its own, and that's why when we do the root canal, if we don't do a root canal, no, the body can't deal with it because the bacteria's always got somewhere it can hide in those canals. Once we've filled the canals, we've hopefully removed all the areas that the bacteria can sit and nest, and therefore the body can clean up the rest that's in the bone. But it is possible to have an area that the body hasn't been able to clear up. Maybe an area within the tooth that wasn't filled properly or wasn't disinfected properly. And some roots are very difficult because they can be quite windy and maybe have tiny little offshoots which are just impossible to see and negotiate.
So what's the worst case scenario if there is an infection there and you leave it? What happens?
Right. Well, the worst case scenario is that it could cause something like septicemia, which is blood poisoning, and the very worst case is that you could end up hospitalised or even possibly die. I mean that's very far-fetched, and I've never really come across anything like that, but that could be the one.
So could it essentially be a way that the immune system would be lowered, and so it's easier for other diseases or conditions to develop in the body from that? Yes,
infections that are left in there can affect your immune system, so your body is always on alert, fighting off the bacteria if there's an infection in there. And so that will cause a toll on the body. Now, some people haven't been to the dentist regularly and they come in and we take an X-ray and we see a big abscess on the end of their roots and they never even knew it was there. It's probably been there for, could be 15 years. And they never knew, they don't have any symptoms and they feel fine. So obviously their body's well enough to deal with that. But some people have a poorer immune system, and so therefore it could affect them more. I have had cases where we've taken out some of these abscesses and all of a sudden they've got a lot more energy, they don't feel sleepy in the afternoon. I've had all sorts of interesting healings, if you like, from taking out an abscess that's been sitting there for many years. One gentleman had constant lung problems, and had been to the doctor many times and they said they couldn't find out what was wrong. Came to me totally on the side, not thinking about his lungs, and we took that tooth out and he's fine ever since. So you do get these strange links. However, I still think root canals are a good thing. I mean, the other alternative is to take the tooth out.
Yeah.
And that can cause its own problems. So a successful root canal is successful as we can tell that it's successful by the x-rays, there's no symptoms.
Yeah.
And it looks.
So what would be an obvious symptom, like, other than obviously other areas of the body might show symptoms of disease, but is there any other symptoms within the tooth itself that you'd be able to tell, other than obviously an x-ray?
Yes, any tenderness, chewing, biting, or when you tap it, you can tap it with your finger if there's any tenderness. If there's any swelling or a little pimple or boil up on the side there. However, some people can have absolutely no symptoms, it all looks good, and you only find it when you take a random x-ray. And then you go,
so
wow.
The x-ray is really the best way to know for sure.
It's one of the best ways, yes.
Okay. The other question we've sort of heard a lot is mercury and mercury fillings, and obviously my straight away, sort of warning sign with that is it is a toxin in the body which you're sitting in your mouth. Love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Well, there's a whole range of responses you'll get from different people. People that are very pro-mercury and those that are very anti-mercury. I'm more on the anti side, I must admit, and I don't place mercury in people's mouths. I did a reasonable amount of research on it and realised I wouldn't want to put it in my children, so why am I putting it in other people's children? So that's my personal view out of the research I've done. I look at it and it's one of the most toxic substances to man on earth, and we're putting it in the mouth. So I don't think it's a very good idea. It is actually a very good filling material, and there's times when I thought, now an amalgam filling would be ideal to place here, but I don't do them, so I won't.
Yeah.
So I understand why people do them.
Yeah.
And they're reasonably long-lasting solution. They are black, so that's not good. The problem is that we know it's 50% mercury. It's about 50% mercury, those fillings, and it is bound up in that lattice work. And the argument's not whether there's mercury release, because we know scientifically that mercury is released from the fillings.
Okay.
The argument is the amount of mercury released.
Okay.
Is that amount going to affect people? Because you can compare it to eating certain fish can be high in mercury as well. So there is definitely mercury release, and I became a dentist that specialised in removing mercury, and so I had naturopaths referring to me, so I did actually see quite a few cases where people had mercury out and they felt a lot better afterwards. Some of these are subjective responses, and
obviously they had other dietary elements taken into account.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There were essentially mercury is something else that the liver now has to detoxify in the body, so you're just accumulating. I mean, as it is in the diet, we naturally are going to accumulate toxins, whether, as much as we try and avoid them. They're in our foods, they're in, just day-to-day life. So to me, it's just another one that you're adding onto the list that the body now has to learn to flush out. So
that's right.
The more we can, reduce those, the better. And there are other options, so it's not like you have to have mercury in your mouth. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've never had anyone ask for a mercury filling
no.
over a white filling.
Yeah, and possibly some people don't know, that there are other options. They might just go to the dentist and say, right, I need a filling, and sort of trust in what they say and suggest. So it is important to know your options and know what's out there. The other one we touched on was gum disease, which is a massive one, which possibly people don't even realise they have. I know I have, sort of quite swollen gums when I came to see you last week, and I had no idea that was even a consideration in terms of infection in the body and that sort of side. So, yeah.
Okay, yes. Well, gum disease is the most common disease in the whole world. Most people have either had it or have got it. The reason it's so common is that it's painless, and people don't respond to it because usually they don't even know they've got it. And the other reason is that it's due to lack of brushing, and it's a thing that a lot of people aren't very good at. Now if you look at how it works, basically if you've got a tooth and around the edge of the tooth, around the gum level, you get the build-up of tartar or calculus. And you can't get that off. It's like barnacles once it's on there. And that causes a crag where nests of bacteria can sit underneath. And that causes the gum to respond to that by getting inflamed and puffy. It makes it bleed easy, causes bad breath, and sometimes a bad taste as well. And the bone underneath that responds to that inflammation by slowly getting eaten away. So long term, teeth can eventually get wiggly, and that's one of the most common reasons people lose their teeth, is because of gum disease. Now,
what is the sort of, the swollen gums, and that's essentially, that's like bacteria in the body once again that the body's having to fight off. Is that a correct explanation?
Absolutely. If you take the surface area of your teeth and look at all that area and you made it a flat area of infection, it would be an area of infection the size of the palm of your hand. Now if you had that size of infection anywhere else in your mouth, and on your body I should say, you'd be seriously off to the doctors. But since it's in your mouth, people can't see it, not painful, so people just leave it. Now that bacterial invasion, every time you brush or eat, it's pushing bacteria into your blood system. And we now have evidence proving that gum disease is associated with increased stroke, increased heart disease, decreased birth weight of children at birth, and several other complications that can affect diabetes, and several other links have been found as well.
Wow.
And the effect of that toll on the body is reasonably dramatic, and it can affect people in different ways.
That's quite interesting. So, I mean, in terms of knowing if you have it, I mean, obviously if you brush your teeth and you get any sort of bleeding, that would be an instant sign. The redness or lack, I guess if the gums are fairly red and sort of swollen looking, that would probably be another indicator.
Yes, I think that most people probably don't know what the colour of their gums are supposed to be, so that some people might be intuitive enough to know that what colour they should be. Everyone should be brushing twice a day and flossing once a day. And when people floss, sometimes it bleeds. And the problem is most people think, oh no, I must be flossing too hard, I need to stop flossing and I'll just stick to brushing, because they think they're traumatising the gum. But it's not, it's actually the gums showing you that they're inflamed. It's pretty hard to traumatise the gums and cut them with the floss. So if you weren't being too hard, it means that they're inflamed and you need to floss more, and maybe get a mouth rinse as well. Most people need around about 6 monthly cleans. Some people need them more often because they build up tartar quicker. Some people don't need them quite as often. Some people can go 12 months without a clean from the dentist and only have a little bit of tartar build up. But the average person is 6 monthly cleans before that tartar builds up and that gum disease has come back again.
And there's nothing you can do sort of dietary wise, like, sort of using, I don't know, I was reading like using bicarb or coconut oil or anything to kind of prevent bacteria build-up over the evening, like if you put it in at night and you sleep with coconut oil in your mouth or anything like that. I've sort of read a little bit about doing those sort of things. Does that work, or is it just...
Well, I haven't read anything that proves that these things work.
Yeah.
So possibly, but not that I know of.
Yeah.
The main thing is your brushing and flossing, and that will decrease that tartar build-up as much as possible.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you very much. That was really informative, and, we certainly and hopefully learn a lot from this and how it possibly could connect to other conditions that we have. And, yeah, so thanks very much for your time today.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.